we have a saying in jiu-jitsu, like there's no black belt moves. You just perfect the white belt moves.
We are about to launch.
Truth, not trends.
What's up, truth, not trends? In the house, I feel evolved.
Evolved.
I feel like I'm heading up to my 77th birthday.
You really are getting on in years, Taku.
I skipped a few. I don't know what's going on. I mean, is there like a time warp or something?
What's going on, people? It's Jesse Schmidt and Liam Bauer, the co-hosts of the TNT Strength podcast.
Right. Truth, not trends. This podcast where we help you maximize your strength as safely
and efficiently
as possible.
My name is Jesse Schmidt. I've been a strength coach for 2,257 days.
57 days, man. 7 days. And my name is Liam Bauer. I've been a strength coach for 35, is it like 97 now? I don't know. 35 years and counting.
Hey, that's a lot of years. Today, we're taking a detour into the world of martial arts, self-defense.
All kinds of stuff. But, a little bit about business, strength training, evolving through the world of the fitness industry in different directions. We were lucky enough to have a longtime friend, coach, compadre, my friend Jay Janero, who runs the Evolve Training Center in South San Francisco. Jay and I go way back. We've worked together in different capacities. He's been a trainer. He's been a fitness director, but his real passion has been for many years martial arts. He started out in judo when he was just a kid. He became a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner very early on. He was an early adopter in the world of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We met back in the early 2000s when I was working with him as an assistant fitness director and strength coach. Helped him prepare to win some judo nationals in the 100-kilo class back then. He's an accomplished athlete. Today, he's running a place called Evolve Training Center in South San Francisco, where they specialize in martial arts, especially Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai. But Jay has a lot of experience as a coach, as I said, businessman. And we got to pick his brain and share some of those adventures from across the years. And that actually was a good conversation.
It was very fantastic. So we know you guys are going to love this interview with Jay. And before we get to the interview, we want to remind you to check out tntstrength.com and especially the shop where we're now offering TNT Strength supplements you can have delivered right to your door.
That's right. We have 5 awesome supplements right now. We've got some whey protein. We've got some creatine monohydrate. We have vitamin K2, D3. We have some probiotics and, of course, fish oil, all things that we take every day, things that we think are great for you. We recommend. They're right there in the store, ready for you to throw them in your cart and grab them.
There you go. At TNT Strength, we recommend a high-protein, whole food diet. But if you know you have some gaps, these supplements can help you fill them. They are nutritious. They are delicious. And with that, we hope you enjoy this interview
with Jay Janero. Jay, thanks for joining us. Welcome to the TNT podcast. We're going to talk about all kinds of things, it sounds like today. Jesse wants to hear badass Hickson stories. But before we get to that, introduce yourself to our audience, just a little bit about your background with training and whatever you want to get into, martial arts, how you and I met 50 years ago.
Man, I started doing judo at the age of 5. My dad's a black belt in judo. And so it was always kind of a given. And I, did some judo tournaments as a kid. I liked it. But the glamorous sports of baseball, football, and basketball kind of intrigued me more. And so I was definitely put judo on the back burner. And, lo and behold, some 25 years later, it's how I provide for myself and my family. So there's an aspect of, what if I kind of stayed consistent through my teens and my early adult life, but, kind of come back full circle. I've always appreciated the aspect of martial arts and yeah, like everyone else, they got caught up in the UFC craze and I just gravitated I felt that it was amazing what they did, and I just wanted to take it a step further. So I heard about this. Everyone knows Hoist Gracie, and so they said there was a brother that was 10 times better, and better is better for me. So I sought out who this brother was, and it was Rickson Gracie. But he was in Los Angeles, and I was in San Francisco. And there was a local dojo in San Francisco, Carly Gracie, who good friend of mine. His son Clark is an amazing practitioner also. So I was over there, but there was just something about Rickson that just really kind of settled me. And I just saw this vision with him. And I went to one of his seminars, and I was just like, wow, it's hard for me to really put into words. And Liam, you met Rickson before. He's just an amazing person. He just brings an energy. And so in December of 1996, I went to my first Rickson seminar, and I was like, I want to open up a school under you, blah, blah, blah. And so, everyone knows the difference between him and Hoist. Hoist is this frail looking guy. Rickson had these muscles, and he would punch people aggressively and then turn them to their stomach and submit them. And so I was like, wow, I think I can get going with this guy.
Yeah. And I know, I know when you and I met, you were already closely connected with him at that point. So 96, wow, that's awesome. So I think you and I met right around, we were talking the other day, maybe 2004. And I can't honestly remember whether you came to the Bay Club. I was at the San Francisco Bay Club at the time, whether you came to do the workshop there before we met and that's where we met, or whether you came after we had met and that's how it happened. I'm having a hard time putting the pieces together from so far back.
No, I think what happened is that I had an in somehow. It might have been Stella Sandoval or Nestor Fernandez.
Oh, right.
And then the minute I got there, you were like, we want to do this here. Is there any way you can do this here? And they didn't really buy into it. So then I just, and then you and I had worked a couple times together. And I just said, well, if they're not going to buy into me coming here teaching jiu-jitsu, how about you buy into coming and work for me and training for me? And so I thought that was a better option.
Yeah. I was joking about that earlier because Jay literally was sort of like, what do I have to do to get you to leave there and come work with me? And I said, make me an offer I can't refuse. So he did.
And Gracie was in that package, monthly Gracie trips.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we actually, I went to work. Jay was the fitness director at a gym out in Colma at the time, and brought me in to run in the training program there. And we had, he was very interested in the functional training stuff and the work with JC Santana, who we've also had as a guest on our podcast. So we started working with JC. We brought him out from Florida for seminars several times. And Jay appreciated his hybrid sort of style of training. And so we used a lot of those types of programs in his specific training programs for Jay. Jay was competing at the time in judo still. We got him together ready for a big competition. Jay's a big guy. What weight were you competing at? Was it 200 pounds or like 100 kilos or?
Kilos, yeah.
So those are big guys, right? And in judo, you have to weigh in on the same day as the competition, and you have to weigh in with your gi to make weight. And so you can imagine he's rolling with, judo's a very demanding sport. People don't know anything about judo. You stand up, it's basically lots of throws and hand fighting. Look up some videos on YouTube and see it. It's incredible. And so these are big, powerful guys. We were prepping Jay for the competition, working on his nutrition, working on all of his conditioning. And the famous story, of course, Jay, I'm sure you remember, we had that last workout before the competition. We were putting him through a circuit. He was blasting through this circuit, just like a minute of different exercises. He just did an exercise, threw the barbell down, went over to the trash can, threw up in the trash can, picked the barbell back right up and kept on going. Finished the whole workout. He was like, he put the bar down. He's like, that was awesome. I was like, okay, you are going to win everything. Unstoppable.
No, it's crazy because I've adopted that mentality. But what if we did something like that today? Like I might lose my job. People might want to sue me if I would tell people just go ahead and puke and continue, right? And so that it seemed normal, right?
Yeah, we had some pretty intense workouts, and the fact that he didn't even slow down at that point, right? Most people that would have been it. They would have put it down. They would have gone over in the corner, crumpled up in a little ball, and then they would have been done. So he finished the workout. I told him he was going to win. He went to the competition. It was down in LA, and he won every match. I think he won everything by ippon, right? So basically the strategy was hand fight, look at those guys. As soon as they start huffing and puffing, go in for the kill, which is essentially what happened. So very successful. And that was, it was awesome.
So it was the Disney Classic. And so I was like, okay, I have a good time, go to Disneyland and what have you. But I might have told you the story. As we weighed in, I cut 11 pounds. And so as we weighed in, I weighed in and made my weight. And then I had to change my gi to a white gi. And they had a bunch of Krispy Kreme donuts for the referees. And I hadn't eaten anything. And I was just like, and I'm a black belt in chocolate and junk food. I can spend $75 at 7-Eleven. Like, I swear.
Me too.
Krispy Kreme donuts. And I ate 2 of them, like within 15 seconds. And then they called my name. So I run out there, and the first thing I do in judo is get my grips. And then after 15 seconds, they call time, and they're like, oh, there's blood on this guy's gi. But they didn't know it was chocolate Krispy Kreme. So they stop it and they wipe it off. And so, yeah, that was embarrassing. But
that is a good one. No, I don't remember that part. So thanks for sharing that.
Hopefully you don't bleed chocolate.
Yeah.
I mean, that's when you know you're really eating too many Krispy Kremes.
There you go.
Is that the worst thing in the world, though? I mean, really?
So yeah, back at that time, Jay was running the fitness program at this gym and also the jiu-jitsu stuff. So it was a regular mainstream gym with full equipment, membership, personal training, all that kind of stuff. But then there was also separately the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu program within that facility. But since then, you've gone on and you've done a ton of stuff. I mean, obviously you could move through it. You did the stuff with Genentech, helped them create their first fitness center on their campus. And he had a big hand in every aspect of that, including what equipment they would use and spaces, all kinds of stuff. But now you've been doing your own 100% places. So what was the first one you did after you left all that stuff? What was the first place you opened? Because I know there's one out in Pacifica, right?
Yeah. You know what? Let me backtrack a little bit.
Yeah, please.
I had no desire to work in the fitness industry. I did not. I wanted to teach jiu-jitsu. And so I went to What a Racket and I said, I can bring a program here that's going to generate revenue. And they were like, well, we're not going to just let someone come in here. You have to work here. So I was like, well, all right, let me get a job, but they wouldn't hire me. And so I tried to get a job at the front desk. They wouldn't hire me. I tried to go to the fitness center because they said I needed to be a trainer, wouldn't quite hire me. And so I'm like, well, how am I going to get in here? And so I'd gotten someone eventually that got their foot in the door, that got me in the door. And I ended up taking both of their jobs. I started working at the front desk and I was the fitness director at the same time. Then I was able to slide my programs in and kind of do things, my way. And so I didn't have any desire to work in the fitness industry because for me, I have exercise ADD. I just can't do 3 sets of bench and then, look in the mirror and, now you take a selfie or you even record the workouts. Like I can't do that. My brain doesn't work that way. And so I was like, I want to just work with athletes and fighters and tough guys. And that couldn't be far from who I am today because I want to work with the weak and all those types of things. And so my mindset had to change. And the reason why I'm bringing it's up is because it's how I've evolved over the years. Like what we looked at in fitness in 2001 is very different than how we look at today in the market and those kind of things. And so yeah, I was over at What a Racket. I was, like you said, I was a director at Genentech, both great experiences, but I had someone that just kept telling me, run your own business. You can make your own schedule and life is great. And there's a lot of truth to that, but you make your own schedule part is bullshit. Problems don't wait between 9 and 5 during the day. Problems arise all the time. Parents want to talk about why little Susie didn't get promoted at any time of the day. And if they didn't get their point across, they want to talk to you about it again. So, that's the good and the bad. And so we're over at Pacifica in what we called JJ Performance Center at the time. And it was great. I got a taste of what being a real business owner was like, but I didn't really, because I was still at Genentech at the time. Man, I think from like 2001 to like 2010, I was always running 2 gyms. I was running What a Racket and Genentech. And then I was running Genentech and the Performance Center. So my life is always crazy. But it wasn't until I left Genentech and I met up with my business partner to where I was like, shit just got real. Because I know tons of trainers, man, all respect to them that want to get their own hustle on the side, but they still have their job at 24 or whatever that kind of pays them. You got to take a leap of faith. And that's what I did. I just said, you know what? I'm going to go all in on this. You know, I don't care about the salary that Genentech was paying me and all that stuff. You know, it was a handsome salary, but there was a floor. And, you know, when you're out on your own and you have the potential to make, you know, your own money, your ceiling is huge. And that's not really what drove me, you know, but I just think the ability to reach people and educate more people about jiu-jitsu, it gave me that great platform.
Yeah, that's awesome. So now, somewhere in that whole spectrum is when we all made that encounter, you and I came in when you were still before Genentech, still at What a Racket. That's when I first came and basically became your assistant, essentially. And then we started doing all that stuff. I mean, we did so much business of all types. That was early stuff. I started doing writing, a lot of the writing then, even for our stuff at that What a Racket, creating nutrition articles, different things for people. And also, we started doing those trips down to LA, as you were talking about. So we got to, you know, work in a couple of Rickson stories. Jesse doesn't know anything about this stuff. You need to go watch the movie.
I'm one of those glamour sport guys. I was a baseball player growing up.
First of all, your homework is to watch the movie Choke. Yeah, and you will enjoy it, and that you'll learn everything there is to know about Rickson's past. But I was telling stories before we got on, Jay, about, you know, how when Rickson comes to do a seminar and how like everybody comes out of the woodwork to take the seminar, but really half of the people are there just to try to beat him, right? And how he very joyfully rolls with everybody, even when by the time I was hanging out with you, and he, you know, he was a little bit older, not old, but and he would come in. I remember he would come in. He goes, I don't know if I really want to roll with everybody, but of course by the end he's like, okay, I'm rolling with everyone. No matter, there's like 40 people there, we're all gonna roll, and no matter who's there, he like taps everybody out effortlessly. It doesn't matter what their background is. But the other cool thing is he automatically also, like, one thing that I noticed is he immediately fixes whatever that was. Like, you know, he'll tap them and then go, see how I just did that? Okay, now I'm going to show you how that won't happen again. And then let's do it again. Now, all you need to do is put your foot here, put your hip there, move that, bam, look, now you just plug that hole in your game. He would like fix it every time. So that was pretty cool.
He's amazing. One of the things for me, I was pretty blessed I think it was from like maybe 2002, 2003 to like 2006, 2007, like Rickson came to my academy 4 years in a row. You know, even though, like you said, he was kind of phasing out of the fight game, he was still a hot commodity, right? And so one of the things that I'd love to do was you bring Rickson to your academy and you just watch people absolutely lose their fucking mind. You just watch people turn into a fanboy. You know, you got guys that are just sitting there, and I'm sure you know, Jesse, right? Like, you see your favorite baseball player, do you want him to sign the card or the magazine? People were doing that for Rickson Gracie.
Yeah.
And the thing that was so amazing about him is that everywhere I've ever went with him, he's never left an autograph unsigned, never said no to a picture. Now, when his kids were competing and we'd go to these tournaments, you know, if he was to walk in through the front door, it would take him 20 minutes to get to a mat because he'll sign every autograph, he takes every picture. So we would have to like sneak him in through the back and just get him to the mat where, you know, Crone or Hodgson was competing on. And then he would go there. And as the day goes on, you know, you're kind of every man for themselves. But he is one of the greatest human beings I've ever met in my life. Like, he is a quality human, you know, like I remember he did a seminar one time and my cousin, he was going through a divorce, and one of my other friends was battling a drug issue, and another friend had a parents that were separating or even a death. And after the seminar, they were like, hey, did you tell Rickson what was going on in my life? And I was like, no. And they're like, man, what he said just really touched me, which really, really resonated with me. And at that point, I was just like, wow, you know, because even for me, like Rickson's jiu-jitsu, I call aha jiu-jitsu. He's not super fancy, but he just says things that make sense and it just clicks. And so, like I said, watching him beat people effortlessly, it never really got old, but I expected it. But to get to know him as a person and like I said, all the nice things that he does for people, goes out of his way, makes people feel real good about themselves. It's rare to see a guy that could rip your head off with his hands, but just kind of massage you and make you feel good, you know, in the same breath. Like, he's just a really, really good person.
The thing that stands out the most for me is that he epitomizes what I feel is like the truth about the athletes that are the best at whatever their game is that, but as you said, there's nothing fancy about what he does, but he just does the basics better than everyone else. Like his game is not, there's no like secret moves or, you know what I mean? Some weird new guard thing, but his basics are like impenetrable.
Yeah, I mean, he's just beyond efficient, right? That's really what it comes down to, because we have a saying in jiu-jitsu, like there's no black belt moves. You just perfect the white belt moves.
There you go.
That's what makes you a black belt, right? And so, and that's the kind of knowledge. Like, man, did I learn that shit in school? No, but I learned that just listening to every word that Rickson Gracie ever said. And obviously, in my line of work, what I just said, those are nuggets. Like people love to hear those kind of things, and so that's kind of, you get more bang for your buck, you know, with that type of life experience. And so, no, he's a master at the basics, and you know, you've heard countless stories, right? But you know, the stories where these black belts in Brazil, they were a little uninspired by his seminar because it was super basic. And he said, all right, well, you know what? You 6 guys, I'm going to line them up and just tap them, you know, just one right after the other with the same choke. And there's another a story where Rickson, there was a world champion that had multiple world titles. And Rickson had just fought Funaki. And so Rickson was preparing for the fight. So he trains in the gi, but you know, his focus was obviously getting ready for the MMA aspect of things. And so, you know, his fight was in May. You figured he stopped, you know, training in the gi consistently, you know, maybe at the beginning of the year, fights Funaki, gets the eye injury, takes a month off. And these guys from Brazil that are preparing for the Worlds stop in at his dojo. So they call Rickson, hey, Rickson, you know, there's someone here. And so Rickson shows up in pajama pants and a borrowed gi top, throws on a belt, and just taps these guys endlessly. You're sitting there saying, wow, this guy is a world champion. He's a beast. He's ready. Rickson hadn't trained in the gi, just coming off this eye injury. Like, these stories are real. Like, I was blessed to see, you know, so many things. Like, there's this famous fight of Anjo, the Japanese fighter. Now, I wasn't present at the fight, but I was trained. I spent a couple of days in LA training, and then I got a staph infection. Rickson was like, no, I can't let you train. He goes, but let's watch this fight. Are you guys familiar with the fight or no?
No.
This guy from Japan wanted to fight Rickson. And so Rickson was just kind of like, listen, I fight you 2 ways. You either A, we get promoters and you make money, or B, you show up and you fight me for honor. And so this guy shows up, and he had media with him. He showed up in a van, and they walk in and they said, we want to fight Rickson Gracie. So the instructor calls Rickson, and Rickson's like, I'll be right down. So this is where I start watching. So Rickson's wrapping his hands in the car saying, there's a guy that is looking for me. I'm going to go there and see what he wants. And so Rickson drives up, and they see this media frenzy out in front of his academy. And so Rickson and his wife, they're like, hey, hold on. So they walk in, they bring the representative in. He's like, you know, we'd like to, you know, have a fight here. And Rickson's like, hey, okay, you know, well, just sign the waiver. So they're like, okay, Mr. Gracie, but we're not going to sign the waiver. And they're like, no, you need to sign a waiver. And then they're like, so if we don't sign the waiver, you're not going to fight. And Rickson already knows. He's like, oh, they're going to call me a phony. They're going to say I'm afraid of this guy. So Rickson pretty much said, okay, F the waiver, come on in. So then Rickson goes, wait a minute. He only comes in, maybe one other guy, no media. So they start fighting. And like I said, this is what I see on the video. He fish hooks Rickson's mouth. So he pretty much takes his finger, puts it inside. Rickson gets it, takes him down, starts hitting him. And then he gets ready to put him in the choke. And then the guy, Rickson didn't let him tap, starts to hit him again. Like, really taught this guy a lesson. And then Hoxton's yelling. The son, Hoxton, was an intense young man. He's yelling at Rickson, and Rickson stops and says, hey, this could be me on the ground someday. So just settle down, you know. And then he's got compassion now, right? So he's beating this guy to a pulp. This guy comes out, bloody mess, face just a mess. And then Rickson says, okay, media, come in now. You guys want to take all your pictures? Here's your champion, you know. But Rickson smartly says, I made sure one guy came in because I didn't want them to think we jumped him or something. So I don't think of those things. You know what I mean? Like, you want to fight with me, you know? So yeah, I just was really, you know, kind of feel privileged to be able to, you know, see those types of things that went on, and I will co-sign for the man. We lost touch. Obviously, we kind of went in separate directions, but I'm going to see him in a couple weeks again because my wife and I are getting really big into self-defense. And, that's the thing, right? Like we have our jiu-jitsu school, we have tough guys, we have world champions, we've got MMA fighters there, but we really want to reach the people that are very unassuming. We want to reach the group that wants to protect themselves, that would run away from a fight as opposed to look for a fight. So he's really helping us with our self-defense branding, and, it doesn't get any better from the source, and he's the source.
Tell us about your current school, where it is and kind of what kind of stuff you're doing. I know it sounds like an amazing space.
Yeah, man, during the pandemic, when everyone was closing their schools and people were struggling with their business, we had a 5,000 square foot facility in South San Francisco during the pandemic. And then we shut because we couldn't really come to good terms with the owners. And so my partner and I took a leap of faith, and we ended up opening a 12,000 square foot facility in the heart of the pandemic, and just said, you know what, we believe in our product. People are going to need this when they get back. And as of late last year, we were back to normal. Our numbers are better now, pre-pandemic. And so, yeah, we're in South San Francisco. My business partner is an excellent Muay Thai instructor, fighter. So we have the jiu-jitsu downstairs, and here we are now. Back in the day for me, I wanted every ounce of the facility covered in mats so we can train. But my wife is involved in the business now. And so now we have lounge areas. So we've got, I call it the Lululemon lounge of jiu-jitsu. And so we've got these beautiful new mats, and we've got a lounge area. We've got a second set of mats on the other side that has a division of another lounge area that's black and white, where we do a lot of our filming, can run classes simultaneously. So we've got 6,000 square feet of that. I got some turf downstairs with a squat rack, dumbbells, kettlebells, a lot of functional type stuff. Because that was my thing also. I was never wanted to own a gym where I just opened the door and people walked in and did their own thing. I always created classes so that people came to the gym for a specific reason. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a world for personal training facilities. Don't get me wrong. But for me, I can't exchange an hour of my day for 8 hours a day for money. I just can't anymore. There's a book called Good to Great where you want to get that economic engine going, and that's just membership sales. Someone is signing up at my academy right now as we have this podcast. So that's the philosophy that I took, and that's even more relevant now in 2023. So
you and Jesse just became best friends because you mentioned that book.
Yeah, I was wondering as you're talking about all these various businesses, who the black belt in your business operations is. So it sounds like you've done a fair amount of homework.
I have. So my wife is a chiropractor, and when she graduated from school, and she puts all this money into being a chiropractor, taking boards and all these tests, and she's like, no one told me I had to take out my own garbage. No one told me how to get a client or to close a client.
Marketing, yeah, there's all that stuff.
Right? Because even for me back in the day, I train with Hickson Gracie. Well, then everyone should be coming to my school. Right? I mean, that's what Hickson says. Hickson's like, well, you train with me. Of course you're going to have people. But I'm not you. And you've got Half Gracie, Charles Gracie, Caesar Gracie around here also. So I was a blue belt, which is unheard of these days. Blue belts aren't supposed to be opening schools, and especially around all of Hickson's cousins and how territorial it was. I was lucky to survive. Now, I can share later, why I survived, but that's not in the book. That's just pure sweat, blood, and tears, and people that bought into me, which I'm forever grateful for. But my wife's mentor, Dr. Sean Dill, he's a part of what we call the Black Diamond Club. And everything these guys touch turns to gold. They work with a gentleman by the name of Michael Port, who wrote a book called Book Yourself Solid.
Yep. He's a professional speaker, right? He's like a speaking consultant.
Yeah.
I've listened to his, he has a great podcast about public speaking. Very worth listening to.
David Meltzer, another guy. David Meltzer was the former, so you remember the movie Jerry Maguire about the athlete that took a chance on someone? David Meltzer was like the silent partner of the agent. And so we're really well connected, but yeah, it's just all about concepts. It's all about your target, your ideal client, target market.
Show me the money. Show me the money, Jerry.
That's what it comes down to, right? And so I'm going to be 50 next month. And there's a side of it that's like, seriously, like even this morning, my wife sets up a meeting with this people that they want to do a nutritional evolve training center nutritional line. And it's a lot of shit. Like it's above my pay grade, you guys. Liam knows this. Liam knows that I have no tolerance for listening and I get impatient. I understand the bigger picture. And so you just have to find that balance. So yeah, for people that are out there with that hustle, because unfortunately, like I know Liam's value, but there's also a group of people that maybe they can't afford, or they just prefer to they want to be YouTube trainers or trained by things from YouTube and piece their things together. And I always valued, that type of relationship and connection. And yeah, for years I was blessed to just have Liam, right next to me. But then there were 2 occasions where I looked for Liam and I had dollars in my hand and he wouldn't take it. But I said, I am not going to let you, do this for free, because he's an elite trainer. He's an elite human. And so I wish it was easy for you to be able to sit there and who you are as a person and what you guys know and what you're providing. People should be lining up at your door, but it's so competitive. There's just so much more to this than just being a great trainer. And so that's why, with my wife and the Black Diamond Club and, Sean Dill, David Meltzer, Michael Port, like we buy into everything they say.
I have multiple thoughts on a lot of great things that you just said. Number one is that I love that you brought up Jim Collins, because I'm a huge Jim Collins fan. And if you're listening to this and you don't know who Jim Collins is, he and his business research team wrote a book called Built to Last, where they looked at some, the greatest companies in American business history. They wrote a follow-up book called Good to Great, which analyzed great companies compared to companies that were very similar to them but haven't done great. And Jim Collins has written several other books. And the biggest takeaway overall for me from Jim Collins' entire body of work is that great companies have a mission. Great companies are working towards something greater than just profit. And interestingly, the greatest companies in American history, even though their profit is not necessarily their primary objective, they tend to be much more profitable than their comparison companies. So I said, I was jokingly quoting Jerry Maguire there, and show me the money. I don't think it doesn't sound like, Jay, your primary objective with Evolve is profit, but I'm sure you guys do well. And TNT is also, succeeding in our own way, and profit is not our number one objective, although we have very clear financial objectives. We want to help people. And the other thought I have is that I think it's an oversimplification to say that, if you're great at what you do, the business will come to you. In this day and age, you can't just be a great, jiu-jitsu coach. You can't just be a great trainer and expect people to come to you. I think that's true in a general sense, but in a more sort of strategic sense, I mean, look at some of the things that we're working on in our business, right? Like accumulating reviews, right? You need reviews and testimonials for the average person to have the visibility and credibility, to know that you actually are one of the best. You could for people right now in this digital age, you could be literally the best in the world at what you do. And if Google and Yelp and, whatever else, Trustpilot, if those third-party review platforms don't reflect that you are the best in the world at what you do, I don't think people will believe you, because it's that important. 20 years ago, it was different.
I mean, it's so crazy, right? Like one of the things that I got into back when functional training started, like for me, I would sit there and I would say, my body just is not going to do 8 to 10 hours a day of training. Even at, back in the day, $50 an hour or even $100 an hour, like there's a price to pay for that. And that's why the Good to Great was, what is your economic engine? What can you do to just generate money automatically? Now it's evolved, no pun intended, right? Over the years. But I would always tell my trainers and people, how many people did you affect today? Because even that is the best trainers in the world, 10 hours a day, an hour a client, that's only 10 people you affected in a day. But if I was to teach 3 or 4 classes with 15 to 25 people there, now we're talking 60 to 100. And what is everything about these days? It's about community. It's about bringing people together. So 20 years ago, I had this vision, or even more than 20 years ago, but I just didn't know what the hell I was doing. I just had a passion for something. You know what I mean? And the second thing is what makes you unique? You know, and this is a question you have to ask yourselves. Why is TNT better than the three other places on every other block? And it's the same thing for jiu-jitsu. Man, it's crazy. There's jiu-jitsu academies just popping up on every corner. Like there's literally someone that opened up an academy a block and a half away from me on the corner. And it's crazy because back in the day, so Jesse, this is how jiu-jitsu would promote itself. The Gracies would go to these academies, whether it be a karate academy or a sambo or whatever, and they would go there and they would walk in and they would challenge their instructor or their best student to a fight. They would beat them shamelessly in front of these people. And they're like, yeah, we just got about 10, 15 people that pretty much believe in us. And we just showed that, this isn't going to work. So it was very territorial then.
It was almost like the Old West in a lot of ways.
Exactly. And so for someone to open up an academy on the corner, you'd usually get a visit and it could become confrontational. And so this young guy that opens up the academy down the street from me, my cousin is his cousin on the other side of the family. Should he have asked me, hey, I'm going to open up down the street from you? No. It would have been great if he did, but that's the world we live in. But I welcome competition. But I also feel there's a dollar for everybody. And so for us at Evolve, I just sat there and said to myself, man, how can we appease a certain group? Like, how can we get someone's attention? So about 10 years ago, I sat there and said, I want to train men over 40, help kids from being bullied and stay-at-home moms. And so we kind of marketed everything towards that. Now, are they the people that are more established and they have money? Probably. And don't get me wrong, like everyone walks through the doors at Evolve. But I mean, if you're a fighter and you're worth your spit, you've probably got to devote 4, 6 to 8 hours a day to do that. And that's why I can't be a fight gym anymore. I would love to just have an overhead and we train fighters all day, but it's just not how things work.
Yeah, and fighters are usually the guys that don't have any money.
Right?
No matter how talented they are, on their way up.
Exactly. Like Gilbert Melendez is down the street from me and a little ways over. Like, it's just a different market. I'm a huge fan of Gilbert. Who isn't? You know what I mean? But we can still have a business within a mile and a half of each other, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that's where I'm at in my life.
I have to echo true. Having working with Jay back in the day, this was his approach, even back when we first met. I mean, he literally would be saying these things like he always wanted to do group training for that reason, like for exactly what he said, even back then, 2005 or whenever when we first started, because he wanted to impact as many people as possible. I was still focusing on one-on-one, but under his influence, I started doing a lot more group stuff. And they were very successful classes and had a lot of innovative ideas with those classes that were very effective. And again, using a lot of influence, a lot by JC stuff back at that time, Juan Carlos Santana, who has evolved tremendously himself. He's still the best of the best in that front as far as I'm concerned, but he has also just continuously evolved and recognizes his own mistakes and the mistakes of that sort of niche of, the quote unquote functional stuff. And, has continued to, be an amazing guy. I'm lucky enough to chat with him a lot. Yeah, way back then, Jay would run these courses and classes put together. And, one of the things that I always remember, Jay, is that you would do those ones where you would basically sort of have a set attendance. And then if they didn't miss any, they would be able to get something back, right? That was always a great sort of, and I've even talked to that with Jesse about stuff. He would do a 12-week class and it would cost X amount. But if you didn't miss a single session, then you would get, a certain amount back, right? For never missing, right? Just that incentive. And we all know that almost everybody misses. But it's, gives them that, and it rewards the ones who really do.
I've lowered my standards over the years. We just did an 8-week program. And we said, if you come to 80% of the classes, which would be 32 out of the 40, we took everyone to dinner. And so we went to a nice Mediterranean place in Burlingame, and the people that made it had a nice dinner with us. I still use those concepts. And you're the one who kind of taught me this, Liam. Like, you sit there and, okay, for the people that want to get half of their tuition fee back or get a dinner, that's what drives them, right? Like, that's what drives them. But if you go to 32 out of 40 training sessions, what does that do to your body? Your body changes. You've developed this routine now that you can do this. And also, right, Liam, I would do 3 classes. I would do a 6 a.m. session. I would do a 6 and a 7. We do a noon and we do an evening. And the morning sessions were the ones that were always packed because those are the people that, because they're about that life, right? They're about that life. I never forget, there was this lady in one of those classes, and man, she was not a morning person. Okay. And we'd always start with like 40, and then we would end with like 16 or 18,
Right.
because that's just how things are. But this lady came, whether she wanted to or not. And she'd be in the back, and I would say, all right, let's go. Give me 2 more. And then I would get and so I had a problem with her. I have 2 things that I require from you. Don't make excuses and try. If you don't do any of those 2 things, you're going to have a great journey with me. But if your narrative is to make excuses, I call you out on it. I can't function that way. So she never really complained to me, but she gave me some body language, And so I just kind of stopped paying attention to her. I would just be very a matter of fact with her. And after the 8 weeks, I happened to see her in the parking lot, and she's like, can I talk to you? And I was like, oh shit, here we go. I'm gonna tell my boss on me or something. And she just starts crying. And I'm like, what? She goes, you changed my life. You believed in me. You made me believe in me, right? Like that's what we do. We change people's lives. There's no magic pills. There's no secret techniques or protocols. At some point, I mean, yes, there's some that work better than others for what's needed. But man, if you can get people to believe in themselves, the sky's the limit for them. And along my journey, I started to approach the Tony Robbins philosophy, and it is a little too rah-rah for me. But at the end of the day, if you believe in yourself and your mental state, man, you're unstoppable. And so I try to just get people to believe in themselves. So if you believe in yourselves, you show up, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah. Those experiences are gold as a coach. We have a new client who probably started training with us, I don't know, about a month ago, maybe a little more than a month. And when we first met with her, she's in her 20s. And she was literally shaking. She was so nervous just to be in the gym. She doesn't like gyms. She's never felt comfortable. She felt judged, all that stuff. I mean, this is like, she was the most nervous person I've ever met with in a gym in 6 years of meeting a lot of people in gyms. And it's really exciting. And she's only 4 or 5 weeks in, and already, I mean, it's like her entire demeanor has changed, being in a positive atmosphere and building your body, whether it's through strength training or whether it's through, martial arts. I think there's a definite confidence that comes with that. That's, I mean, and I understand what you're saying too, is that, you're always like, if you do this for long enough, you're going to work with people who are unenthusiastic, inconsistent, negative, at least sometimes. Everybody has bad days, right? When you have those transformations, whether it's physical or psychological or emotional or spiritual or whatever it is, it makes it all worth it, right?
Well, you got their attention, right? That's the key. You've got their attention. Like, and man, we could probably do a 5-hour podcast of all of our success stories, right? But I had this one lady, and she literally, 2017, she came to me and she looked like olive oil. Now, I don't know if Jesse knows who olive oil is, Popeye's old lady.
Oh, yeah.
She's very skinny.
Yeah.
That's how she looked. And every time I would tell her, you sure I'm not going to get hurt? And, the first 17 or 18 times, you're not going to get hurt. I care about your well-being. I'm watching your technique. After a while, I'm like, yes, this is going to hurt you. And she kind of looked at me and then she laughed. I said, well, okay. After X amount of time, she understands my type of humor. But now I still work with her to this day. And I say to you, Sarah, who are you or what are you? She was, I'm gangster as fuck now. You know what I mean? I have this lady who went from looking like olive oil to be gangster AF. She believes in herself. And it was funny. One day she went home, and Liam knows I don't like to lift heavy. That was really never my thing, and Liam, he obviously modified and adapted to whatever, but that was my thing. I never lifted that way. And so, mainly my training style is that way also. I like more range, I like to do certain things. And so her mom's like 82 years old. And she's like, I can lift 40 pounds. And when my client comes back crying, my mom said, I'm weak and blah, blah, blah. And I said, you may not have lifted 40 pounds, but you could probably lift 25 pounds 30 times. And so I just said, let's go prove something to your mom. And so she just starts throwing weight around, and I was like, okay, fair enough. I said, you bought into what I'm saying. I proved my point, but this isn't where we want to go with your training all the time. Let's just stick with what we're doing. And at the end, through this whole thing is she trusts me. And that's what it comes down to is these people. And that's why, for one, that's why I kind of quoted Liam, because I was like, well, this is cool. I'm having success, but I trust him. And then you get to this point in your life where you're like, I don't want to train myself. Well, who do I trust? I go to Liam, month and a half ago, 2 months ago, I kind of told him, this is what I'm doing. This is where I'm at. And he's like, try this. And so that's what I'm doing again. So I'm working with Liam again. So one thing I will tell you, I did start on the conditioning protocols. And so instead of the 2.5 minute rest, I'm doing plank for a minute. Then I give myself a 1.5 minute rest.
Nice. All right. Yeah, that's a good modification.
I just sort of modified that way. But no, at this stage of my life, I'm going to be 50 in 2 months. And so I'm using Liam's programs to get me to where I want to be. Not just look great cosmetically, but just feel good.
You do look pretty damn good right now, young man.
Well, I'm wearing black, also.
Hey, what are those guys doing here? Whenever I feel like I'm stalling out on my bench press, I know I need a new strength curve. Whether you're stalling out on the road or stalling out in the gym, you need something with great engineering. That's right. And so look for the pendulum. Pendulum. Not just your average strength machines. No, they have smooth strength curves, amazing rigidity. And did we mention the engineering's fantastic? That's right. Not to mention, they come in cool colors. Like red and silver. Well, that was kind of weird. What was that all about? Back to the interview.
This is another thing that I do for Evolve. Well, I think I've been doing it for like the past 10, 15 years. I call it a birthday beatdown. So whatever your age is, I train with you for the amount of years that you've been in this world. And so I'm going to be 50 this year. So I've got to find someone to push me for 50 minutes straight.
Nice. And and when you say push you, like maybe do some rolling, you mean like jiu-jitsu or?
That's all it is.
So will you do like the meat grinder, just have one guy after another guy go for?
It's just a one guy, one-on-one mental connection. Throw on some Kiss.
Now you're talking. Shout out loud.
Shout it out loud. That's what it is.
50 minutes is a long time.
Oh my God. People don't have any idea how demanding combat sports are. They just literally have no concept. It's just like doing high intensity training, balls to the wall. Like most people will throw up in the first minute or so if they're actually wrestling hard or something. I mean, they can't do it. It's just incredible. And boxing, all those sports, Muay Thai, doesn't matter if you're throwing, kicking, punches, whatever, and you're going full power. The other thing is in the real world, someone's hitting you back. If you're just hitting pads, that's one thing. But when someone's hitting you back, that changes everything.
And so they have bad intentions too,
Yeah. So and then when you're rolling, a lot of times it looks like there's not a lot going on, but your muscles are working continuously.
So with the birthday beating, say someone turns 40 years old and you got to budget your energy. There's no way that you can go balls to the wall, for 40 minutes, right? Or you shouldn't have. And that's kind of where, for me, my evolution of jiu-jitsu, because how can I get good at being the positions that I'm uncomfortable in if I always want to stay on top and be dominant, right? And so what happens is that I'll start off, it's kind of a feel thing. And I can't emphasize how fucking cool it is to just shake hands with someone and then know that you're probably not going to talk with each other till 40 minutes later. But in your mind, you guys are trying to mentally fuck each other up.
Yeah, your bodies are talking plenty.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And so, but as I evolved and got older, I would let someone get the position. Then I'd be like, all right, now I'm going to rest. If he moves his hip that way and lifts that leg, I'm going underneath him. Okay, now I'm going to get on top of him. Now I'm going to cook him. Going to make him work a little bit, tire him out. Oh, let him sweep me. Now I'm going to defend a little bit. And then, because I usually play the music and I know where I'm at about the 12-minute left, then I turn it on. Now I go. Now it's kind of balls to the wall. Okay, you can't go balls to the wall with me because you were going balls to the wall earlier and I was playing possum. So it's just an amazing strategy and it's just super cool.
So now do you guys in these birthday things, do you go for a tap? Do you go for submission? Do you go for position? And if someone does get in a position, do you just reset and continue?
No, someone taps, we just tie our belts, shake hands, and go again,
Yeah, yeah. We should start doing some crazy birthday workouts over here.
So Liam's birthday is a week after mine. So I'll come down and we'll do a 77-minute workout.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, Jay. And I'll last the first 77 seconds.
Well, we got 77 out of it some way, right?
There we go. I have not rolled since the last time you saw me in person.
There's a lot of things we got to do. We got to go to lunch. We got to roll. We'll do those things,
in that order.
There we go.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. Maybe a little bit of time.
We should bring Team TNT over there to evolve and do a little, exchange. We could do a little self-defense workshop, you guys. And if you guys ever want to bring us over there to do like a strength training seminar or nutrition or anything like that, and talk to your crew or any group, we love doing that kind of stuff.
They call it collab, man. We'll do a
collab.
Do it a collaboration.
I'm 77. I don't know those lingos.
Hey, trust me, man. My wife, she's talking and she works at the college. They say all these things. I said, babe, man, each time you come home, you added a year to my age,
Well, Jesse was born around the time I graduated from college, so he misses most of my references most of the time. He usually just looks at me and says, I don't know what you're talking about.
What other business book recommendations do you have for us, Jay?
My Bible is the Black Diamond Club. It's a group on social media. And like I said, David Meltzer is a part of it. Dr. Sean Dill, Michael Port, the who's who in business. They just go and collaborate and just, they just did a Book Yourself Solid challenge last week where it was from 9 to 10 a.m. every day. Thousands and thousands of people are on calls and stuff like that. And so I kind of use that as my Bible. I finished the James Nestor breathing book just recently. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that. Does not breathe through his mouth at all. It's all through his nose. And it's funny because I tried to get the Hicks and Gracie breathe book, but that came up. So I said, well, I'll just buy them both. And so I ended up reading that book also. I like the Wim Hof method, the cold and his breathing. I'm reading the Undercover Cop Hell's Angels one right now. So that's not for business. I know that might be for bad business, but yeah, but that's kind of what I'm into right now. And then I'm starting a life coaching program on June 26th. Just to kind of just be able to connect with people, give them my life experience. And, God knows I messed up plenty, through my lifetime to where, Liam would always tell me, you can't out-train a bad diet. And give me a fucking piece of pizza and let me throw up again and I'm good. But now, a lot of that stuff is coming true and I believe in it. Like, man, I have cauliflower tortillas inside my refrigerator. Like, I don't eat flour tortillas anymore.
Back in the day, Jay's favorite thing, I was just joking about this when we'd go to Olive Garden, the tour of Italy.
Right?
Let me get every pasta on the menu.
But yeah, I mean, that's part of the 80-20 rule. There's 20% of the time I eat like an idiot. But, for the most part, if I valued the things that Liam would try to ingrain in me, and luckily, I respect him enough to be like, he might be right. But no, the last 10, 12 years, I've really valued, the things I put in my body. And so
do you have like a setup where people come in and they expect to do like a certain amount of exercise, like sort of pure workout stuff, and then a certain amount of jiu-jitsu stuff? Or do you do just all jiu-jitsu where it's just like the classic, like warm-ups, like shrimping and rolling, and then work on a specific technique? Or
yeah. So from the jiu-jitsu class standpoint, there's days where I do those warm-ups, but I don't like to do those things all the time. So what I'm big in jiu-jitsu, or what are the things you're going to be doing every day? You're going to be passing the guard and you're going to be warming up and reposing the guard. So I'll have someone work on a particular guard pass and then have someone repose the guard, put them back into the guard and have them do it again. And I have them do it for 5 minutes. And it's a great way to warm up your hips. It's a great way to kind of get your full body moving at one time. And so yeah, we start with guard reposal drills, and then we do what we call sweep exchanges, where I'll sweep you, pass your guard, mount you, you put me back into the guard, and you sweep me. It's kind of a more of a productive type of kata type of thing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's very alive and practical, right? It's realistic. It's pieces of the game you're going to need. It's functional.
And it's 40 to 60% resistance so that people aren't going bananas right away.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so I kind of switch in between the two. One of the things that I got really heavy I didn't want it to always be about me. I don't want facilities named after myself. I don't want to have to be the guy teaching all the classes. one of the things I learned, I forgot which book it was I was reading, but it's everything's about a system. And one of the most successful systems in the world or companies in the world was McDonald's at some point. And at McDonald's, you sit there and it could be Jay, Liam, Jesse, my next door neighbor, or even my dog Creed. You go in, you open the binder, and it says, turn on the light. Then it's turn on this switch. Get the fries ready. Get the oil prepped. Because if I want to go on a 2-week vacation, I can't because I'm married to my business. And so I created a system. Jesse might not be, I don't know if he's a football fan, but it's very similar to Bill Walsh's West Coast offense back in the early and mid 80s. It's just a system and it's plug and play. You can put this new person in, you stay within the system. And so I have a couple of instructors that teach there and they get the recognition. And when I come in for a class and people like, Jay teaches on Monday nights, then yeah, maybe those classes are a little more, well attended, but I don't want it to be about me. I think I've gotten to the point, I've never been a guy that micromanaged. And I never micromanaged Liam either because Liam was a better trainer than me. He had far more experience than me.
Yeah, I mean, he's 77 years old. He's got all this wisdom.
Yeah, right. The only thing I had on him was more hair, and so, but I like to I feel now, and that's why I chose to be an instructor, is because I love seeing people succeed. I love making people happy. And so for me to be able to sit back and, I have a worker, his name is Steve, really, really good guy, one of my closest friends, and he had a city job. He was set for life, but he would always come in the gym. He was faithful and man, rough day at work. And I said, man, this is my vision. And he quit all that. And I'm able to pay him full-time salary. And so he's changing people's lives as well, and so that's what it's about for me. I got into jiu-jitsu because I wanted to learn how to break people's arms. But now, we're going to have a promotion Monday night, and promotions are always great because you just see these people that accomplish something together. And you see families on social media doing shit together. And, like one of the most gratifying things for me is I'll teach a class and I might be off to the side talking to someone. And I just see other people that I helped when they came in helping others now. And I can't take credit for any technique. I can't take credit for any types of protocols or anything, but I will take full credit for is the culture that I created. Because when you come to Evolve, I want you to feel like you are a part of something. And that's my narrative that I'm going to just hammer home.
Yeah, that's awesome.
When I talk with other business owners, I always recommend the E-Myth is one of the top books that I recommend, because so many people think that just because they're, great at their craft, that they'll be great in business. And I think that's a dangerous idea. I think that, or it could be potentially there's a fallacy there, right? So if you are great at something, then sure, you can be great at something else. You can be great at business and be a great coach, but you can't just assume, just like we were talking about earlier, that the business will come to you because you're good at what you do. Or there has to be growth from the business owner standpoint as well.
And then also, I would always tell my trainers, like, you don't have to be the best trainer. Just show up on time and be professional. People value that, right? Sometimes they don't value all the extra things at the end of your name, but they value that you're a professional.
You remember Jason, another friend of Jesse also knows Jason. We had him on us. We did a podcast episode because he's been in the fire department for a very long time now. He's a full-time firefighter. So we had a special episode on first responders, and we brought like some police officers and firefighters. He was a guest, but I remember rolling with Jason. I'm not sure how well you remember how crazy strong he is, but
so him and Eduardo Soto are the two strongest people
it would literally take me both of my hands to control one of his hands. So he always had a free hand because I couldn't fight his hands one-on-one, So I'd have to use both hands on one, and then he'd have a free arm. So it's like there's nothing you could do.
No, I remember, and because even for me, when I trained with Jason, I felt his strength, and so I sat there and said, in jiu-jitsu, we replace strength with leverage. I'm a master at leverage. Jason's a master at being strong. Leverage is going to beat strength at some point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I was just kind of like, all right, I'm just waiting for this guy to get tired. And once you get that, then you feel superhuman, right? Then you're able to kind of do all those things. But yeah, right before I was going to mention Jason's name. You get all these certifications and they're great, but man, the things that I learned from you, and the reason why I talk about Jason, because I had an ACL surgery, and Jason helped me with my strength training after. PT, it only took me so far. They're really worried about getting re-injured and so forth. And some of the protocols that you guys used, and particularly Jason, on my ACL reconstruction, I use it to this day with people.
Yeah, I appreciate all the kind words, sir. It's always been a pleasure. It's good to see you. I knew Jay before he was even married, way back.
No, it's we're all busy, and Liam, brought this up. I tried to move mountains to, make this happen. It could have happened at some point, but, can we do it in a week? Yeah. I'll drop anything for this guy. He's done nothing but steer me in the right direction, be a good friend, not just to me, my family, and, so forth. And so, no, it's my pleasure to be here. It was a great meeting you, Jesse. And
nice to meet you too, Jay. And, Liam's the grandfather we all love.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to invite you guys to my 77th. It's right around the corner.
Well, if you make the 77-minute birthday meeting, then it's going to be a hell of a bash.
Oh man, I think I'm gonna hide out on that one. I might try to miss it out. Thanks so much for joining us today. And by the way, you make sure you tell your mom I still haven't had chili verde better than hers anywhere in my life.
That's the only time I'll eat a flour tortilla is when I have my mom's chili verde. Because if I bring my cassava flour tortillas over there, they'll throw it in the garbage.
All right, man. Well, we appreciate it. We'll let you go. I'm sure you're busy. Say hi to Jane. Say hi to everybody.
Well, like I said, you guys, I really appreciate you. I had a great time. Jesse, you come out with us. Hang out with us.
Yeah, I'd like to come out and see your facility one of these days.
Let's give Jesse a birthday beatdown.
Yeah.
I have no fighting skills, so there's no doubt in my mind you guys will beat me down well, thoroughly.
You could have a million fighting skills and it was going to be the same result.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Truth Not Trends
TNT Strength Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on whatever platform you're on, and share these episodes with a friend. Spread the word.
If you want to learn more about us, you can visit tntstrength.com.
You can also call us live right here at the studio anytime at 510-768-5421.
Or shoot us an email at contact@tntstrength.com.
If you visit, you can sign up and get our free training and nutrition PDF. Just head on over, click the box. It'll be in your inbox in no time.
While you're at tntstrength.com, check out our store where we offer our fantastic TNT Strength nutritional supplements.
And whatever you do, stay off with that stupid blue bosu.
Shout it, shout it, shout it out loud.
Mixed and edited by Desmond McNeese for We Mixed It, LLC. Go to whatsoundsawesome.com.
Just go ahead and puke and continue.